So, what do you think is the most expensive guess in business? I'll tell you what it might be. Where to open your next door. For decades, it's been this massive, high-stakes bet based pretty much on gut feeling. But right now, especially in Vietnam's booming retail market, AI is turning that bet into a science. And honestly, the results are a total game changer.
Okay, just picture this for a second. You're in charge of expansion. You get one shot to pick the next location. If you get it right, you're a hero. But if you get it wrong, whoa. You've just burned through millions and set your company back years. The pressure is just immense, and for the longest time, the tools we had to make this call were surprisingly primitive.
You know, for years, the playbook was basically the same. You'd trust the seasoned executive's intuition, maybe send a team out with clipboards for a few weeks to count cars. It was slow, it was subjective, and it was really more art than science. And in today's fast-moving market, well, that art has become a massive, unacceptable risk.
And if you're thinking this is just some niche trend, just look at the money pouring in. The global market for AI in retail is on track to hit nearly $32 billion by 2028. This isn't just about a few clever apps. No way. This is a fundamental rewiring of how the entire industry actually operates.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about the retail expansion gamble itself. Then we'll see how AI finds those golden locations and how it manages all the legal risks. After that, we'll look at the clear business payoff, and we'll wrap up with a practical 3-step roadmap to put it all into action.
All right, first up, the retail expansion gamble, and a closer look at why intuition just doesn't cut it anymore.
The old way, it's just flawed from start to finish. It all starts with these slow, manual surveys. That information then feeds into subjective, often biased decisions. All that subjectivity, it just opens the door to huge financial mistakes because you're completely blind to complex variables, like, say, a rival's secret expansion plan. And even if you get all of that right, you can still get caught in these hidden legal nightmares buried in the fine print. Every single step is a potential landmine.
Okay, but what if you could see all those variables at once? What if you could swap out the guesswork for actual hard data? Well, that's exactly where AI steps in and starts finding those golden locations.
And really, this is the AI's superpower. It's this incredible ability to process hundreds of different, disconnected data streams all at the same time, something no human team could ever hope to do, and then weave them all together into a single predictive model of a location's future success.
So what's the AI actually looking at? Well, it's not just the obvious stuff, Of course, it's analyzing historical sales and customer demographics, but it's also pulling in real-time traffic flow from mobile devices, mapping out competitor density, and even scraping social media to gauge local buzz. And this is critical. It calculates supply chain costs. Because let's be real, a spot with amazing foot traffic is totally worthless if it costs a fortune just to keep the shelves stocked.
A really great way to think about this is like dynamic pricing, but for a physical location. We've all seen how airlines or ride-sharing apps use AI to adjust prices based on real-time demand, right? This is the exact same logic. By analyzing all those variables, the AI puts a precise dollar value on a location's revenue potential. That gives a company just incredible leverage to negotiate rent and forecast their profits with stunning accuracy.
And when you put them side by side, the difference is just staggering. The time it takes to make a decision collapses from months down to minutes. The accuracy shifts from a subjective guess to a self-learning system that gets smarter over time. But the most important change here is the risk. It goes from being this huge, unpredictable factor to something that is actively minimized. It's a total transformation.
All right, so finding the perfect spot is one thing, but you've also got to secure it without getting tangled up in legal nightmares. This brings us to how AI manages legal risk by automating due diligence to protect your investment.
The impact on the legal side is just wild. Think about all those tedious, boring hours spent on manual data entry. AI reduces that by 95%. Contract negotiations that used to drag on for weeks are now 70% faster, and the final approval process, a massive 85% quicker. These aren't just little tweaks, these are fundamental gains in efficiency.
Let's just compare the review process. A manual review can take weeks and is, prone to human error. AI does it in hours with near-perfect consistency. But here's the real superpower. A human lawyer might spot the obvious risks, sure, but the AI,
It's trained to find that one tiny, toxic clause buried on page 47 of a lease, the kind of thing that can cost millions down the line, and it does all that while slashing personnel costs.
Okay, so we've got a faster, smarter way to find locations and a much safer way to lock them down. But what does this all mean for the bottom line, right? Let's talk about the clear business payoff and how you measure the tangible return on investment.
And look, this isn't just some vague promise of being smarter. You can measure the value in hard, cold numbers. By picking better spots, you drive higher sales per square meter. By negotiating smarter and avoiding those legal traps, your return on investment shoots way up. And because the whole process is faster and safer, you can simply out-expand your competition.
At the end of the day, it all boils down to this really powerful trifecta. You expand faster, so you capture market share before anyone else. Each new store you open is more profitable from day one. And you build this data-driven competitive edge that is incredibly difficult for your rivals to overcome.
Okay, this all sounds fantastic in theory, right? But how do you actually make it happen in the real world? Let's dive into our final section, a practical 3-step roadmap for implementing AI.
Now, let's be realistic. This isn't a magic button. Companies worry about things like fragmented data, high initial costs, and a potential skills gap. But for every one of these hurdles, AI offers a strategic solution. The AI itself is brilliant at unifying messy data from different sources. You don't have to build from scratch. You can integrate powerful existing platforms. And far from replacing people, this tech frees up your human experts to focus on strategy, which is exactly where they create the most value.
And the best way to get started is with a really clear, phased approach. First up, you run a pilot project. Test the AI model on a small scale to prove its value and get buy-in from everyone. Second, once you have those positive results, you scale, you integrate more data, and you expand its use. And finally, you optimize. You use the real-world results to continuously refine the model and integrate it fully across the entire business.
And this brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway here. This is not about robots taking over. As the quote says, AI should be seen as a tool to enhance professional capabilities, not replace them. It's about giving your best people the best data so they can make smarter, faster, and way more confident decisions. So, we'll leave you with this thought. In a world where your competitors are getting smarter by the second, the question is no longer if a business should adopt this technology. The real question is, how quickly can you afford not to? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.